Oh, hello, chat. Just one moment as I appear to be holding my microphone because the stand has come unhinged again. Give me one sec. I think that's working. Ah, testing 1, 2, 3. Everyone out there, can y'all hear me? Oh, there you guys are. Okay, sorry. Ugh. I am running a little bit behind. I just got the tweet out though. Do me that favor and go give it some love. And let me grab today's towels. Hello, Angora. Hello, Kimochi. All right. Think we're good to go? Well, as good as we can be. Hello, everyone. Here is today's artwork. Do me a favor, go give the artist some love. I'm a little tired today. Just had a long day. It was both a busy day at work and like I ended up getting all of those videos out. I actually do have the final video from that post earlier today prepped as well, so it'll go live tomorrow. I felt like releasing 5 videos in one day was kind of overkill, and I was like, it's probably not helping the algorithm too much when you start bombarding like that, so I was just like, whatever. But again, we did get the Proto Merlin video out. We got the Valkyrie video out. We got the Hibiki and Chikagi video out that was overdue from the JP event. So again, people have been wondering about my takes on the new alter ego on JP. It's all there. And then we also got the actual full-blown event guide out for summer so that you guys can check that out. I have to give a big shout out to my man Okayist. He actually did manage to pull through with me with a lot of those thumbnails, so thank you. And whew, we got to do another one today. So again, I probably should have actually started to cover summer with you guys earlier, but I wanted to take it a little bit easy, and to a degree, I'm glad I did. I don't regret it. I am, in a weird way, like, being productive. I'm actually managing to get a lot of stuff handled all at the same time, so it's working, but I have so much I have to do before the debut that it's gonna be rough. I'm gonna try to make it, but we shall see. Got my second account. I finally got Scotty. Congrats, Field. Making me yawn at 11 a.m., Cat. Why would you say yawn? That makes me yawn. What's wild is I had some sweet tea for dinner, right? Like, and I know sweet tea can make you crash afterwards, but like, I should still be in the caffeine phase of it. But it's still making me tank a little bit here. But let me get going. I'll actually get into the swing of things. And again, I hope everybody is doing good. I do have to apologize for yesterday, the little bit of a mix-up we had there at the end. The raid did not go through right away. We did end up kidding to raid Miss Karagi Tutu during her collab there. But it did not go through right away, and I have no idea why. So it just managed to screw up. I also didn't see the super chat on the YouTube side of things, so my apologies on that. That is on my to-do list for things to kind of fix. I should be having a new tool coming in that should help with that soon, so it is a thing. Oh, also, actually, give me 1 second here, real fast, chat. I wanted to show you guys this. Okay. So I did just recently get one of these in the mail, and for those of you guys that are not dyslexic and can't read backwards, this says Stream Deck XL. So I got the bigger one. I have the normal Stream Deck here, the like 5-panel one. It's basically like it's like 15 buttons. This one has, let me see if I can count. This one has 32, so this one's more than double the size of the one that I have. So I got that. I'm going to be getting it online because it should help with things like Aurelia and basically also my new VTuber toggles. Having more buttons is definitely not a bad problem. So it is on my to-do list as well because I determined that it was something that I actually needed. Wait, so you can count to more than 4? No, how I actually did it, Burning, was I said it was 4 times 4 times 4. So it was 4. Oh. Hello, Sora. Any advice on how to use Maid Alter properly? She just confuses me. You're not going to have any charge in her kit, and you're not really going to have the best outright refund off of her NP. Where I've been able to use her very effectively has been either for, a NP followed up with cards, particularly if you have crit stars, you're going to be having crits there. And I know you're thinking, well, okay, but that's kind of the thing that you can do with everyone. Well, the good news is Maid Alter is a quick unit. You should have sort of that capability. So very frequently, if I do manage to set her up with a little bit of starting charge and a double Scotty setup, I can actually kind of keep a loop going as long as I get the cards. If I don't get the cards, things start to get a little bit spicy. If you're talking about how to use her in terms of like getting the most damage out of her, that's the reloaded meme. That does require you having her sort of like her third skill lord at minimum. And what you really want to do there is you want to like pop the third skill turn 1 and then basically self-target herself with the cooldown reduction. It should come back basically already by the third turn, if not even faster. And then essentially what you can do is you can basically sit there and you can double that up. The thing to keep in mind and the thing to watch out for with her third skill is that any quick card will consume the buff. That includes an NP or again, just a normal card. So make sure you don't, while waiting for the skill to come back a second time, accidentally use one of her quick cards because then you'll actually just consume it. Hello, Ern. How's it going? Ked, why did you export Florida humidity to Maryland? The only thing I can assume is Bale. Sorry, not Bale. Barrel brought it all to you. So you should all be chanting, "Curse you, Barrel!" How's it going? I wonder if we get something tomorrow on JP. Honestly, I hope not. Like, JP still got the event going, and straight up, like, I am behind on it at this point, it feels like to me. Plus the fact that that I just want to be able to, like, veg out on NA and just actually, like, cover the summer content and grind. This is the new Ember farming comp that I've elected to pull. It is a single support Koyanskaya with a scoped, obviously NP5, Arcuid. Sorry, I dropped my pen. And then basically a Rider Ellie with she does have maxed out charge skill and maxed out append, but it kind of works. And you can do this with another like single target 50% charger. So even someone like say like Kentucky or any other 30%er that had a maxed out append. And it kind of works. And I really don't think you need that strong of an Arcuid. Probably like an NP1 or an NP2 should be enough, because you guys will see I basically do manage to kind of like pop just about everything here on turn one and just roll with it. Faker too, yeah, you can definitely do stuff like that. All Lord of Destruction, yes. Barrel's getting his revenge after LB6, of course. Does this work for the QP node? Within reason, it should. Again, I'm doing casters, so if you think about it. This middle wave here is a little bit spicier because you have a like 42k HP neutral target here. But like I was saying, you guys just should see that, and again, I'll just go ahead and pop that. That's the overflow charge that gets her up to full. And basically, you guys should see that the amount of damage I'm doing is about 200k, which should be roughly around like 60k per enemy. There's nobody here that she's doing effective damage to. There's nobody that she's getting super effective chaotic against. So, and again, you can see that one was about 220. So like 200k is like the low roll. So again, like I said, you're assuming that's at minimum like 60k there. So I feel like you could probably step this down a couple MP levels and this would still work. It wouldn't have to be too crazy. But yeah, I'm not sure if like an NP1 would be able to do this sort of thing. Or that if it did, you might want to like pop a Mystic Code or something like that in turn 2, just to make it possible. So. But it is a very low requirement comp in the sense that like you really don't have to have too much to get it going. And in a weird way, you could also just supplement with more craft essences if you wanted to. Because this is technically a 5 craft essence comp. Currently grinding for spinal fluid on Koyan. Nice. DSSR and got Koyan Light? Nice. That is definitely good. Yeah, it's always nice when you actually get your target rather than, you know, like getting someone that you absolutely didn't want off of it. Why is that not pressing? There we go. You can see this is relatively fast and easy. It's basically a 6-button press comp. I press everything other than 2 buttons on turn 1, so it's just working out really well for me. Like, ha ha ha, go burr. And only Kai and Skaya's first and third are targeted, which is nice. Shufu is a godsend. I keep telling people, like, a lot of people don't realize that she is just so nice for just being this, like, sort of compact battery and NP gain generator. So she just works really, really solid. And everybody has her. She's free. So, like, it's one of those deals where I think a lot of people probably think she's not that big of a deal. And you'll see kind of over time just kind of having that budgetary version of what amounts to like a Nero Bride works really well. What kind of comp do you even put Shufu in? A lot of the times I'll use her as a sort of like tertiary support. So she'll be a third support in a comp where like I maybe am concerned about party cost, or I maybe have like everybody they already wanted to already bonded. From the All Experience node for those? For which? Thumbnails for the videos are really good, especially the ones from the Valk Assassins, but I'm just here. But it's just because I'm a Throodsome. Yeah, I like that one as well. No, Okayist did a good job. Sometimes I give Okayist a little bit of direction on that stuff. You guys know for years I did the the thumbnails myself. But because of the rigors of trying to do daily like YouTube content, it gets very difficult for me to do that and do my day job and, you know, run the community and basically do all the other things I need to be doing with social media. So having Okayist help out has been, again, a godsend. So I got to thank him for that. Oh, you're looking to farm experience cards for Ibuki, Scotty, and Avalon. Are there any experience loss on using class cards on extra? Yeah, so basically, whoops, hold on. The way to think about it is you get, what is it? I think 33k for a 4-star Ember being used on the same class. You only get like 30k if you use a differing Ember on it. So you do want to sync these up. The problem is the 3 that you listed, basically, other than Ibuki, are extra classes, and extra classes are only going to get benefit from an all Ember. So the issue that you're going to have is, again, just you're going to end up needing to like actually have a source of all Embers. You really can't farm them out of this. The best you can hope for is they will occasionally spawn Berserker Embers. It'll be good for your Ibuki, but there's not much you can do about that, and I'm just going to say it is what it is. At the end of the day, there's nothing to stop you from throwing in non good Embers in, but I am going to tell you that it's best done, it's most efficiently done by using the same class. At the end of the day, though, if you don't have a source of them, you don't have a source of them, so go with it. Unless you have other targets that you would maybe be wanting to save for. If I were to pull in the new banner and got her, will the pity reset or continue? Pity. So the way pity works, and I do have a video talking about it if you guys want it more in depth, but basically, so like, let's say you had a banner for Koyanskaya of Light, and you rolled on her and you got her. You no longer have pity. Also, if you roll on the banner, get all the way up to like the 900 spins, sorry, it's technically 300 spins, but 900 courts, at that point you would hit pity, and then you would also not have pity on that banner anymore. Here's the deal about it. If the banner basically ends, then you get another Koyanskaya banner eventually sometime after that. You have pity on that banner again. So it's restricted to just that banner. However, it does not carry over. Let's say if you had Koyanskaya into an Arcuid banner, you don't like go, oh man, I rolled 600 course over here, so I only have 300 over here. I wish this were the case, but this is not the case. There is no carryover of pity. So, and again, you only have pity for the very first copy on each banner. You do not get pity after the first copy. I also wish that were not the case. Restarting FGO, lost my account on my phone. Getting in water. Oof. What summer servants should I save for? Ooh, that's a difficult one, because really we have a really good like sort of omni farmer with Ibuki Berserker, and then we have 2 like sort of meta supports. It's kind of difficult. They're all good, and that's kind of the difficulty of what they gave us. So in that regard, you can kind of roll for whichever one you want. Each one will be useful to your account. I think at least when we start to consider the possibility of like starting from absolute scratch and having nothing, Ibuki might be the best scenario, because it would give you a really strong AoE Berserker to be able to farm with, and getting arts supports online even when you don't have anyone pulled is actually not that difficult. I'd say best case scenario, you could start by taking like either Tamamo or Waver from the and I would maybe even suggest Waver in this scenario, from the actual like SSR selector that you get at the beginning. You do have 2 GSSRs currently available, as well as a free craft essence currently available due to the NA's anniversary right here. So you could definitely get more with that. But from there, with like Waver, you can combine probably the likes of, again, someone like Shufu or even Paracelsus, and basically sit there and kind of just make this sort of hodgepodge composition with Ibuki Berserker, and you would already be pretty well set for having a lot of farming capability. And that's excluding taking something on support like a Castoria that would easily be able to help you out. So I do think that's a good way to start out. That might be the best way, arguably, but then there's still some good usefulness out of the other 2 supports that are there. Want to contact FGO support to get the account back? It can kind of be difficult, especially if it's been a long time. I'll say you should try, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, I just got GSSR Sabers banner, got one copy of NP3 Saber Musashi, copy of Chevalier de Eon, and the other Destiny banner I got Zerker Morgan MP2. Nice. That's really good push. Ibuki would be the best for starter IMO. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm looking at this not from the sense of like how everybody else probably will, where they'd be like, oh my god, Ibuki's so good. I'm just purely coming at this from a standpoint of that would easily enable you to have a like berserker up and online for your farming needs. As well as easily having some support right away. So you would just almost immediately have a functioning art system relatively quickly. And that's only possible really due to just how easy it is to form an art system in this game. It's something that I've talked about before, that in a weird way, like Arts just has so many options, especially like free-to-play options, that it becomes quite easy for you. Oh, sorry, I just saw that question. Since you're becoming a VTuber, are you getting a manager? God, I wish. You know anyone that wants to be my manager? Like, the unfortunate part to this chat is, like, I know, like, someone in chat might try to meme me and say yes, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that it's so much work. So I dare someone. Someone want to be my manager? Oh god, I would love to be able to push off some of the work onto someone else. Holy crap. What about the 4 stars for a beginner? Just on the summer banners. I mean, you could maybe argue someone like Eris has some potential. Really, none of them are bad. You're going to hear a lot of people, especially with like Gareth, try to say how bad she is. Gareth is still a ultimately usable unit and not like a terrible pick at all. She's just she kind of has that downside of just constantly being compared to the likes of Salter, Gawain, and Barghest at this point, which are just far more popular characters, so she's kind of doomed right there from the start in people's eyes. Put a manager request on Twitter. I'm sure people might see it. I mean, I'm gonna be real with y'all. The biggest problem with that is I don't make enough money off of the shit to pay a manager. Hello, SSJ. How's it going? And hello, Jay, with your 190 stream streak. I'll have to see about breaking that. We can't have Jay holding the record now. VZS, thank you for the follow. I'm joking. Jay can hold the record. I don't care. Summer Ibuki a better replacement for Summer Musashi? In a weird way, you could argue that Summer Ibuki is just a little bit more usable out of the gate due to the 50% charge, but dear God, Summer Musashi's got that just absolutely monster NP interlude coming that's just gonna make her really fucking cracked. So, like, I don't know, right? Like, I wouldn't say it's a replacement at that point. Maybe for a newer player, but not so much for, like, anyone that has an established account. I don't think is gonna really care that much. And I've talked with you guys about this before. This is something that's gonna come up when we review Summer Ibuki. I am going to probably piss some people off when I start making the case for why you don't need Summer Ibuki. And there's going to be a ton of people that are going to want to circle jerk and have you get her. She's still a really, really good option. But I am going to try to go a little bit counter to the narrative that is that you have to have her. Because there's so many people out there that are going to try and tell you that you have to have her. So I will make a good case for you to have her. I will point out how she is good, but I'm also going to sort of temper that with saying, look, you do not have to. I'll have people that'll sit here and they will argue with me. They will say, oh, no, what are you talking about, Cad? Chat? Hi. I've made it through all of JP's content without Summer Ibuki. I don't have her on JP. I have used her, but I do not have her. And I never had to have her. So it is a big thing, right? Like, and that's where I'm going to say it's really just going to come down to the status of your account. It's going to come down to what you have and what you need. And if you need it, it's a good roll. If you don't need it, then you don't need it. And you shouldn't feel pressured to have it. But Cad Musashi killed Ibuki with her MP buff. No, like low key, Robo. I am so glad that happened. Like I know people are upset that she got stronger than Ibuki. I'm so glad it happened because I hate to say this, y'all were gonna be unsufferable if we got to that point and Ibuki was still on top, where like everybody and their brother was going to sit there and circle jerk about how you had to get her. And that's what I'm saying. So it's like, no, I'm actually glad because the Musashi buff did temper people quite a bit more. I'm not dealing with nearly as many people when I say these sorts of things. Because it got to the point that every time I would bring up the fact that you didn't have to have her, I would get shouted down. Now, post Musashi buff, I don't get shouted down anymore. It's why I rolled Spishy, because I really liked her and she happened to be meta, lol. Yeah. Well, it is kind of the same thing with Space Ishtar, right? You had a very similar group of people saying you had to have her and that she was the greatest thing ever, and just use your Summer Ibuki, just use your Space Ishtar, right? Like to do everything. So we've seen this argument time and time again, and the answer is just that you never have to have it. People are going to act like their new big meta broken waifu is a have to have. Let's just be honest, it's people's bias leaking through. They just really like the character and they feel like everybody else should have to have it so that they feel validated. And that's perfectly okay. I understand wanting to feel validated, just that like don't impress your crap on other people. Don't make them, feel like they have to get something that they don't have to have. Devaxion, thank you for the follow. But again, like I said, I'm going to make the case for her. And I'm also going to just try to temper the expectations by also pointing out how it's not a requirement. So we'll talk about how good of a unit she is. And then we're also going to have that comparison to Musashi. And we're also going to end up talking about like how this maybe isn't the biggest deal in the world, despite what everyone would want you to think. To some extent, you can clear the game with basically anything. Right. And that's kind of why I say that, like, it's usually not as big of a deal as people make it out to me. Meanwhile, Summer Kama and Summer Mellow fans are chilling in the background. Oh, no. Summer Mellow? I still routinely get asked why Summer Mellow is one of the best units ever. And I hate to break this one to you guys. She's not. Like, she is not one of the most cracked units in the game. People want you to believe that, but it's because they are Melisson fans. And that's perfectly fine. But, chat, this is like me sitting here trying to tell you that Lartoria is the best Lancer in the game. You're going to immediately spot the bias, right? So again, she's a good unit, but nothing crazy. Exactly. I agree with what King said right there. And that is the truth of the matter. I think a lot of people just sit there and start going like, oh my God, she's so good. You have to have her. Guys, oh my God, she's the best unit ever. And it's like, no, you just really like Melisson. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just please don't make that extra logic jump there, right? Like, oh, I really like Melisson. Oh, she's so good is fine. You have to have her is not fine. Don't do that, right? Like, that's the crap I keep getting on to people about. One of the things I like about Summer Mellow is she's quite easy to use. She is. She's very nice in that regard. And that's, again, like I ended up getting her myself and I have used her. It is definitely something that I like about her. But it is just, again, sort of par for the course. We see this every year. I'm going to, chat, I'm going to go ahead and say this to y'all. This summer, you will have a new meta unit come out on JP, right? Like, people are going to immediately go, oh my god, it's the most cracked thing ever. Like, Castoria must roll. And I'm going to say no. And then everyone's going to be like, the next stream, I'm going to get asked the same question again. And then eventually that, is she a must roll? Because I keep not giving the answer that's wanted, will morph slowly into she is a must roll as the the mentality just kind of keeps coping in that regard. Twice in last year's case, yeah, exactly. It happens. My goal is Lady Avalon and Summer Scotty, and that's fine. I have Summer Musashi, but I feel the need to have Summer Ibuki for waifu purposes. Not looking good for my Zenkorts right now. It's free to play. Yeah, that's okay. With Zerktoria and Summer Mellow, right. Yeah. I mean, I can at least point to Zerktoria and say that Zerktoria is one of the strongest scaling units in the game. Straight up. Like, that is really, really nice for her. Do you have to have her? Chat, this is the Saber face guy. The huge Saber fan telling you, no, you don't have to get Zerker Castoria. So do you now believe me? Like... The cat, I don't need Zerker Castoria because there are other options. That's true. 100%. The only person you have to have is your wife or husbando. Correct. Yeah, 100%. Like, get the characters that you want. It's all lies like the cake, I see. What was I doing? Refreshing. Dad, I am literally now looking only for drop CEs. I am no longer taking the the parfait bonus because I need it. I needed to clear the shop. So if you guys actually have like MLB of a CE, please, dear God, put it on your Kayanskaya. I will use it. Draco, Tiamat, Melu, Zerktoria, Kenshin. Yep. Yeah, and that's like, you're going to see the same thing with Draco. You're going to see the same thing with Tiamat. And chat, I'm going to tell you flat out that I could have made it through all the content that I did without Draco. And I straight up didn't roll Tiamat, so neither of them are required. I know that's a wild concept. Did you see the Summer Lartoria work from Ryan? Did I see the Summer Lartoria work? Chat, I'm on the Discord with them. I straight up have watched Ryan working on it. So yeah, I've seen it. It's been fantastic. You're saying Big Hat Morgan is not a must-have? No, Ace is not a must-have. She's really good, though. I do really like Ace. But it's really funny because if you actually start to look at Ace damage numbers, NP1 Ace actually doesn't out damage at Castraku. So there is that sort of, well, assuming you have NP5 Castraku, right? So there is that sort of issue that can crop up and rear its ugly head, but it just is what it is, right? And it's something that you just kind of have to know. But I'm an Umu fan. I need Draco. That's right. And so, like, that's all I try to do with you guys. I just kind of try to cut through the biased bullshit that people push all the time. And you'll notice that where this stuff gets the strongest is when it's a really popular character. So when the character is extremely popular, everyone and their brother is telling you that you have to have the character. Why? Because everyone and their brother likes the character. And that's really all it is. I would argue Castoria is the only unit in the game that could be argued to be a must pull, and even then you can clear the whole game without her. Yeah, I agree with that. And like I've said, the closest thing that the game has to must pulls are your support units, particularly the big meta supports, because they are just the like they enable certain things, and if you do not have them, you are not doing their content, right? Like, so for instance, you can't have double Scotty without Scotty. You can't have double Castoria without Castoria. You have to have them in order to actually be able to form those compositions. And if you do not have them, you're screwed. Now, we do have things later on, like, again, Summer Scotty mixed with normal Scotty. That can definitely be a thing. So it's not impossible to do. And this is where I've said before that I actually do believe them providing more options is largely a good thing. But that's why we treat this as if they are the closest thing to actually being a must have. And I'm just going to leave that unpressed right there. It is purely because they make your life easier. They are a huge quality of life, and they facilitate compositions that without them are otherwise impossible. The same could be said of a damage dealer. You could say that compositions without, say, Kukulkan, you can't form any Kukulkan compositions. The difference is you could, in theory, take one on support, because it would have to be a comp that would require, say, double Kukulkan for that to be the case. And in reality, most of the time, that's not a deal. Most of the time, you don't have a double damage dealer comp as a requirement. So it's way less of an occurrence to be a thing, and the meta is not built as much around it. If you lack Castoria, you have so many options for art support. That is true. So again, Castoria is definitely, to me, a quality of life upgrade. She makes your life so much better. Having her, and it's why she is one of my, if not my top recommendation for who people should roll. But yeah, you can beat the whole game without her. I'm compelled to roll for Cuckoo because she's the final piece I need. Go for it. I really like Cuckoo. Do you think 1,000 quartz is enough for 2 Summer Scotties and some copy of Summer Ibuki? Well, the pity in FGO is 900. So maybe. I will say, on average, you're looking at about 300 quartz per. But remember, that's just the average. And you can be both above and below the average. So you could get really lucky and come in under average, or you could not be and go all the way to pity. I'm not wishing that on you. I'm just saying that, like, do I think it's enough? Maybe. Nobody can answer that definitively until you actually roll. Nathan, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Ooh, I actually have double busters. We're going to go ahead and use that. Find a dark god to sacrifice to in your set. Jesus. Why are you playing a big booby anime video game? I don't know. Have you seen my mascot here? Who's waving to you right now? Have you seen the artwork behind her? I might have a thing for boobs. Just saying. Trying to catch up on an A at the start of Olympus. Yes. All my luck went to triple SSR Destiny roll, so I'm terrified. Oh yeah. I hope you get lucky after that. I could easily see how karmic feedback would be like. No. Now, I'm also going to assume that the viewer that asked me that because they too like it, and that's why they're here. I just got NP2 Artoria instead of NP2 Arc. Wait, why is that a sad moment? That's a great moment. No, I understand. It always sucks when you don't get the character you want, right? I'm happy we'll get a free Saber. I am too. Like it's really weird because when that came out, I did anticipate it was going to come to NA for the launch of the visual novel, and that does appear like that's going to be the case at this point. But part of me in the back of my head was going like, well, we got that GSSR that JP still doesn't have. So maybe like them getting the Fate Stay Night celebration was like, oh, now NA's not gonna get that. So I don't know. Free Saber, yeah. So we get. They already announced this at the anniversary, but we are getting a ticket that includes a free pick of all of the Fate Stay Night characters. You can pick one. So naturally, because the original Fate Stay Night characters are mostly 3 and 4 stars, the easy choice for a lot of people is just picking Artoria. Yeah, Gil is not there for some odd reason. So everybody just went, oh shit, that's a free Artoria, and basically chose to treat it as such. There were several people that picked like Hercules or Emia or something like that, but it's kind of a, well, do you want a free 4-star or a free 5-star? So it kind of just depends. Is Alter a pick? I don't believe she was. I feel like they should have put it on. Yeah, I mean, like, there's definite arguments to be made for like, hey, they left off other characters, right? I don't know why they did. I am only talking about what actually did happen. Does Lady Avalon get another banner? Yes, she does, Left Sharks. She gets one at the, I believe it's the second banner for the arcade collab next year, which is unfortunately the same event that has Tiamat and Draco. So she does get another banner. It's not that far away, but it's also not at a good time depending on who you want to roll. So it just depends. How does regular Saber compare to Alter damage wise? To be honest, regular Saber normally beats Alter, but the fact that Alter straight up just got access to Black Grail with her buff definitely helped propel Alter quite a bit. So in a weird way, you could argue that Saber can still out damage her, but I believe it requires you using Summer Kuro, so it is what it is, right? Like, I do think that to a degree they messed up. That Saber Alter buff is one of the strongest buffs that the game has ever seen, just due to how it works. But we'll see. Who knows? They may leave that sort of thing intact, or they may choose to in the future revisit Saber or revisit, some of the other competitors to Saber Alter. So it just depends. Hello, Gubbin. That one assassin guy should also be one of them, except he's a 1-star. The hell's his name? The 1-star. Wait, what? Are you talking about Cursed Arm, the 2-star? I still remember people year 1 and year 2 dogging Arteria, calling her underwhelming. Yeah, people were whack, dude. Like, I don't get that, but it is what it is. And that's like I've said, it's just how the community's always been. I have had to come to grips with the fact that the FGO community is fairly toxic on certain issues, and no amount of playing nice will ever make them not be toxic. It's just how they are. The Regent of France, yes. Khadroth's in every route and he's on the ticket. Yep. And Gilgamesh. No, not Gilgamesh. What is this track? This is One Winged Angel. But I believe it's the Ayaya version. So it's from Final Fantasy VII. Oh no, it doesn't appear like it is. This is the actual one-winged angel. I'm sorry, I've heard the Ayaya version so much that I conflate the two now. Ayaya. There's the part of me that wants the 120 legend. If I don't, any other MP5 targets. I mean, I'll say this: like I've seen people say, "Oh, you can like 120ing is only for whales," and I'm like, "Well, that's technically not true because it just depends on who you're trying to whale." Like, or sorry, grail. Because it's like, yeah, you're 3 stars and lower. If they're permanent, they can all be taken really high. But I definitely do agree with the way the coin system is structured. That well, I don't believe it's entirely whaley. I do believe that it's 100% designed to incentivize that. So, like, you'll not hear me sit there and like complain when people call that system scummy. Also, only there briefly in Route 3, basically. Yeah. Feels like a weird free servant choice. It is. What was the buff? Salter basically starts to get NP charge per enemy hit. So with her being an AoE, she actually starts to charge, and she can double pop this skill. So she actually starts to get like not only like 30 charge per turn, but then like 60 charge per turn by the end of the 3 turns. So it allows her to be a Black Grail looper, whereas before the best case scenario for Salter wasn't even a 50% C, it was a 60% C. So it really turned Salter around. Her damage jump just went absolutely insane. Whee! Okay, is there any I want to pull off of this? We'll pull off that one. Let's see. I can either get more chains or more pages. Survey says more chains. I still just have so much of that. Chat, okay, hold on. Someone answer me. Does this shit just not go down, or am I somehow outgaining? Because like, I swear it is not going down. Do you need the append? Yes, you do. Yeah, you at least have to have the append unlocked. No, it doesn't go down much. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's why I was like, huh? I swear it's like not actually doing what I thought it would. Yeah, it does. It is going down. It's just, dear Lord, I agree. It's not going down much. Dom of Duty, thank you for the follow. Is Shiki worth it if my only DPS are Summer, Kiara, and Arcuade? Support Castoria. Yeah, I mean, sure. If you don't have an AoE Saber, I would say that's definitely the case. So, Shiki's actually going to become a quite strong unit. You got this upgrade right here, and that really helps improve her. But she's going to get an upgrade in the next, like, year-ish or so that actually turns her into a Black Grail Looper. So she'll be really good for you then. I don't understand. I just click everything. Yeah, I'm just confused because I'm like trying to understand it, and apparently, like chat said, the ladder's only 1.5 mil, so I'm already like I've already been done with the ladder, and it's not even close. And yet, like the shop, I'm just like nowhere close to clearing yet, and we only have like a week left. So I'm like, oh god, I am terrified of how this is all gonna go down. So I'm basically just going to sit here and grab the materials that I can get my hands on. How did my black beast grease get that low? I swear they're just not offering it anymore. Also, why are bones a gold mat? What? Hmm. Actually, buying the serpent jewels first feels wrong. Okay, in order of least having to most. Shall grab that. Shall grab that. And that's pretty much it. Okay, now we're getting a lot closer at least. Because the bronze is going by relatively fast. I think the issue that I'm gonna have is I do need to like find more people that actually have like an MLB gold on their stuff, because I'm just not progressing the gold very fast at all. And I still have quite a bit to do here. What is this inflation, right? That Destiny date being 2025 initially was such an awesome troll. Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't expect them to pull that one out on us. Like, I thought they were just like trying to like hype next Annie all of a sudden when they did that, and then it was like, no, they're actually showing you, hey, this is coming. And I was like, oh, sweet. Any good farming events for QP coming up? Um, Besides what's currently going on, I think the is it the Gouda event that's not too bad, and then we are gonna have in November the actual lotto, but I assume you want it before that point. Yeah, right now it's half cost. Just got coin of Dark and Oberon on my GSSR. Congrats. That's definitely not bad, especially if you didn't have them. Near Bride and Abby on an A. Destiny got me squirt. Hey, look, chat, there's so many good options that you guys can pick up. I definitely feel for those that didn't get the choice that they wanted, but also at the same time, like, damn, yeah, there's some actual good stuff. Oh, wait, I need the ruler, Scotty. What are we doing on her bond? Not quite to bond 7. I rolled Maid Altar for love and got her. I hope she gets some buffs down the line, though. I've said this before and I'll say it again, that they really got to do better by some of the summer units. I feel like they purposely let a lot of the summer units kind of just languish over time because they know that the unit is popular due to its like design. And so I feel like, well, when they come out, they're strong. The fact that they don't receive support for a long time after that usually results in them very quickly sort of deprecating due to the structure of the game and how like it kind of keeps power creeping of late. Just finished my Destiny order. Nice. They started to buff some summer units, yeah. Yeah, they have done it occasionally. Like for instance, like Bunny. Bunny got the upgrade to her second skill, and that's a really nice upgrade, but like in terms of general usability, one of the biggest issues Bunny has, she just absolutely needs an NP interlude. Like she is just kind of left behind right now. So and I've said this before, like, I don't believe that someone like Amakusa should be, dealing as much damage as they do. I feel like Amakusa, because when Amakusa got his buff initially for a minute there, he was actually one of the top ruler damage dealers. And I was like, no, Amakusa should never be on top because Amakusa will always have one of the strongest niches. And that's the fact that Amakusa AoE buff strips before damage. So that has just always been a really good thing for him. I suspect why he got it, though, was more the fact that Summer Abbey came out, was just an inherently easier unit to use. She was just a 50% charger. She had sleep and she had AoE buff strip. And so I think that was one of those deals where they went like, ah, crap, yeah, now no one's going to use Amakusa. And I was like, you know what? Who cares? To me, Amakusa's never really been that popular of a character, so I don't know why they seemingly really want to like keep him like relevant and stuff. But at the same time, I can at least say that Amakusa always will be relevant just purely due to that buff strip. It's been 2 years since JP got a moon cancer. I feel like we either get a new one sooner or one will get buffed. It's been 2 years since JP got a moon cancer, but JP has been getting a crap ton of extra units over the last 2 years. So, like, well, yeah, I agree. I also just feel like they need to just do a better job of actually spreading around their units. Like, I've talked about this before, right? Chat, can you guys name me the single target quick SSR archer? Yeah, there is none. Trick question, yeah. Yeah, it's basically MHXA. There isn't one, right? What's the other class? I believe there's another one. Is it Rider? Is it Rider that also doesn't have a single target quick SSR? So, like, it's really weird that we have, like, for instance, when they added Tametomo was what, the sixth AoE Buster Archer, and you don't even have a single target quick SSR one? And you're like, what's going on? Like, what? Why are they doing this? Why are they just dogpiling certain card types? And, like, then you have an actual... Oh, so here you go, chat. On NA right now, so not JP units, on NA, okay? Can you guys list for me an AoE quick SSR assassin? None yet. You're about to get the first one. Huyan Zhou. And it's really funny because then after Huyan Zhou, you get a second one. Yeah, like, it's really wild, right? So, like, chat, it took us all the way until year 7 before the class that is known for quick cards finally got an SSR AoE of that card type. It's kind of wild when you think about it. Like, they just don't do a good job of actually diversifying a lot of the stuff. If you were to sit there and you were to go single target AoE, you know, quick arts buster, and you were to lay all of that out, you would notice some extreme disparities. You'd be like, oh, there are like 6 buster units of this category. Oh, there are like 4 arts units of this category. And then you'd be like, why is there none or one of this other category? And you would sit there and you would just be like, what is going on? Why are they doing this? We don't have a quick AoE Castoria. Not an SSR. You do have an SR. Rats. Quick still remains crippled. And that may be what they're going to do is they maybe are going to like, hey, here comes a new quick meta. They come out with it and then boom, here comes all these hot new quick units. Definitely a strategy they can do. But it is a really interesting thing when you think about it. 159 arts, 157 buster, and 97 quick units in total. That was really absurd that you had that at the tip of your fingertips, but I think I know why you did. But like, yeah, it is what it is, right? And I can say that like, so I don't know if your numbers there include things like supports Avalon, but if it does, supports overwhelmingly are arts. So like, at that point, you can even sit there and look at and say, like, oh, yeah, God, there's just way more Buster units that are damage dealers than any other type. And that's kind of nutty. Make a battery that works on stars, Lord, to fill up. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to say that, like, hey, we need to fix quick and here's how, right? I'm just trying to point out the actual disparity that you have in terms of, like, yeah, you just straight up don't have a class that does X or Y. You didn't have an AoE quick SSR Saber until Oki-Tan. You didn't have a second one until Charlemagne. There's plenty of, like, things that you guys can point out that either we don't have one or it took them forever even to just get one. Here's another one, chat. Can y'all name me a single target SSR ruler? Kenshin. Now name me another. Doesn't exist. Yeah. There's not. She's the first one, and it took us until year 8 to get one. Like, we don't even have to talk card type. It took us till year 8 to get a single target SSR ruler. Like, so there you go, right? Like, you start to think about that and you're like, wow, what are they doing? I don't know. I have no idea. Can anyone name a servant with a Buster and P that is non-damaging, Satheno? Himiko Buster card is an NP cat. No, it's not. I don't believe you. Okay, chat. Let's get prepped here for Summer Gareth. I'm not sure if what Steve sent me is cursed or great. Blurst, probably. Constantinople's, you talking about Constantine? Yeah, Constantine has a Buster MP that's non-damaging. Leonidas does. Or is Leonidas' Buster? I think it's Buster. If not, it buffs Buster. Does JP anniversary happen during global summer event? Well, yes. Should. Archon, thank you for the follow. I'm not even drunk. How am I messing up names? Because Istanbul is Constantinople. But that's no one's business but the Turks. Okay, let's pull up Gareth. Why is this on the hunting quest? Good lord. This DNA? Okay, no, it's not. Instant Constantinople? I see. Is that like instant noodles? Yeah. You just mix it in, pour something hot in there and mix it. Even if they do, you still need to wait 2 years to get it. Right. Please motivate me to do shit on an A. Making blue apples have made me lazy. You got enough QP and embers for summer? Hold on, chat. Real quick. I need to check something. Yeah, hers is only 20%. That's what I thought. Yep. Yep. Wait. Oh, wait. Hold on. Right. My brain. Okay. I was going to ask that if you didn't include it. Oh, come on. Come on. What one of these isn't even fair, Avalon. You know that. You know one of these isn't even fair. Okay. Right, then she's got the I fandom wire you this way. We'll include it. Feels like a good one. Oh my god. Like if the page doesn't fully load, it doesn't pop up the actual search window. Okay, we are ready. And damn, she's hiding a nice pair inside that armor all this time. Yeah, yeah. There's also, I like, honestly, I hate how much I like this. I hate how much I like her third ascension. It's really nice. And part of the problem with why I hate this is a summer unit, and they keep giving you non-summer ascensions in summer units, and they're always damn good. And you're like, wow, I really like that, but I just want the bikini, right? So it ends up being a thing. I like her first ascension the most. I see. You just like the megaphone, don't you? Oh, wait, hold on. Avalon spotted. Right there. Right there. Goodest of boys. That's a heckin' derp. If I've ever seen one. Am I? Did I switch? Yeah, okay, we are on the right scene. All right. No, it's just chill vibe. Yes. Okay. Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be talking to you about Summer Gareth. Now, Summer Gareth is going to be the 4-star on our very first Arctic Summer banner here. Coming up, she's going to be paired alongside Lady Avalon, so a lot of you guys might just find your way into having her by virtue of rolling to try and get the 5-star on the banner. However, I am going to say that Summer Gareth is a unit that, interestingly enough, has received quite a bit of hate over the years, and not due to anything Summer Gareth has really done. I suspect that there's two reasons for this. The first is foremost the fact that she is not the strongest unit out there, especially amongst 4-stars, and you'll see that when we start going over the damage comparisons and things like that. And the second is going to be the fact that she just naturally ends up slotted into the same niche as units like Gawain and Barghast. So a lot of people just have a tendency to play favorites and enjoy those characters, and they seemingly try to talk trash about Gareth and about how bad she is. The reality is Gareth is still a pretty usable unit. She's still a really fun unit to run around with. Definitely not a gotta have, definitely not the best 4-star out there or anything like that, but she's not bad and you can definitely manage to use her. I do believe that she does need some upgrades. I will just say that outright, that I believe that her charging situation is currently not working out very well for her, and that ultimately at the end of the day, she still has that sort of issue kind of plaguing her in the fact that because she's not the most popular unit, her not being that strong either is sort of a double whammy for her. So in that regard, if they wanted to make her deal a little bit more damage, I think one of the ways in which they could help it out would be the charge scenario. We'll talk about that as we get in. But again, I do believe that she can still be a serviceable unit for a lot of you guys. Either way, just be kind to Gareth. She's a good girl, and she has done nothing wrong to deserve the hate that she does get from people. So let's go ahead and talk about our 4-star AoE Buster Saber that we're going to be getting here. So again, Gareth is normally a 2-star. This is going to be a limited version of the unit. So obviously, with it being a summer unit, don't expect to have very many banners for Summer Gareth over the years. She will certainly get some, but it's just going to be one of those deals where you're not going to expect her to be one of the most plentiful or common units out there. But this Saber form basically is going to end up starting out with only about 8k attack. This is sort of one of the issues just right here out of the gate that does kind of end up plaguing her a little bit. Now, attack is in and of itself not the end-all be-all. People would be very quick to point to an attack stat and say that's why a unit is good or bad. The reality is it takes the entirety of a unit's kit in order to formulate the actual damage numbers that they pump out. But certainly having higher attack is always a good thing, and lower attack is always a sign for concern. It doesn't necessarily mean that the unit's going to be either good or bad, but it doesn't at the same time mean that they don't have ground to make up if it's low, for instance, or just sort of have a natural edge even when their skills and stuff are on cooldown when they have high attack. So it is something to be considered in that regard. The good news is she does make up for this with a pretty robust HP stat for a 4-star. She's knocking on the door there to almost 14k. So she at least has that going for her, and she is probably going to need it in some regards. She is Earth attributed, and she only has 98 star absorption, which is a little bit less than the average for Sabers. She does have star generation rate of 10.2 and an NP charge attack rate of 0.82. This is naturally going to be a little bit higher because we've got a more Buster-centric unit here, and usually Buster-centric units have a tendency to be a little bit more Unga Boonga related and trying to just go after damage, less so for actually having a deck that facilitates NP gain. So it's usually put a little bit higher for them since they usually have less cards or maybe even less robust cards in order to help that out. Gareth's case, though, she will at least have some pretty decent card performance. She does have 3% NP charge defense here and a higher than average 31.5% death rate. She does have the lawful summer alignment. So again, that summer alignment being relatively rare outside of just summer units. Definitely not something that gets exploited all the time by certain challenges and stuff. So it is a good thing to have. She's a female gendered hominidae servant humanoid, a loved one, which is the Brynhilder's beloved trait. She has writing. She is a round table knight. She is just a normal servant, and then a 7-knight servant, which is the Draco qualifier. A summer mode servant and weak to Anima Elish. Now, again, you can see here that her deck is basically just going to be double Buster, double Arts with a singular quick. And the hit counts are all okay, with the exception being the Arts card. That is why you have the 0.82 NP charge attack rate, is to help offset the only 2-hit Arts card there. So it's definitely something that's kind of designed to help pick these two up so that they're not the worst in terms of NP gain. And simply just kind of looking at this, she's actually going to be a little bit of a Buster Arts hybrid with how her kit works. So having kind of, again, 80% of the kit occupied by those cards is a good thing. Having the higher NP gain rate to apply to these only 2-hit Arts cards, also a good thing. Now, as you guys can see here, her very first skill is going to be that hybrid skill that we talked about. It's going to be Arts and Buster performance for herself for 3 turns each by up to 20%. Obviously not the most robust skill in terms of the steroids, but still fairly nice to have that, again, most of the deck type of coverage there. She's also then going to have a crit star bomb on command on this skill, all on a 5-turn cooldown here at 20 stars and 5 turns. So definitely a nice thing to have, as again, Buster units typically are going to be paired with Buster supports, particularly units like Koyanskaya, and thus you're going to have some latent soaking basically to the Buster card, allowing for a little bit better damage. So in that regard, her having a nice star bomb here, always going to help, but still we might be paired alongside the likes of Oberon or Koyanskaya that also have star bombs on their own. Either way, crits should be relatively plentiful when using Summer Gareth because of that. Again, all of that on a 5-turn cooldown. And the good part about this is if you were to get away with using someone like double Koyanskaya in a setup with them, that would allow this skill to be popped on turns 1 and 2. The only downside here is due to the way Gareth's charge works, you're probably going to be using her with double Oberon if you're trying to make her the sole focus of the comp. So not the double Koyanskaya setup. That is definitely a concern, and it's why I believe that one of the best ways to improve Summer Gareth would actually be to enhance her overall charge. If they do that, it would actually be a huge boon to her, as she would be able to double up this skill relatively fast. So not only would it probably allow her a better comp, it would also probably allow her a better starting charge scenario in terms of craft essence usage, allowing her to get more damage that way. And it would also potentially allow her to double up her skills, giving her even more damage that way. So it would be a pretty big swing for someone like Gareth if you could manage to segue her into basically that better comp due to a better charge scenario. Her second skill here is a targetable guts of 1 time 3 turns. Again, it scales up to 3000 HP as the revive, and you will also gain critical stars every single turn for 3 turns, up to 10 here, making it fundamentally a fragment of 2030 copy right there, just as part of her kit. The other upside here is she will have a 500% chance to grant herself the Sunlight Battlefield buff for 3 turns, And that is basically going to put her, as we mentioned earlier, right into that same niche as Gawain as well as Barcast. Now, there is a reason for this. I saw a lot of confusion of it. Part of the problem here is that she's basically using Gawain's sword, to my understanding, and she is also Gawain's sister in that regard. So it's not totally unheard of for her to have something like this, but it definitely felt a little bit weird that they gave us another AoE Buster Saber and put her right into the exact same niche as Gawain and Barcast. If anything, I would have thought that they maybe would have made someone like Gareth, I don't know, maybe arts or something to maybe differentiate her from the likes of Gawain and Barcast, but they didn't. The other interesting part to this is the fact that while she provides the Sunlight Battlefield buff, this does mean that Barcast is still the odd one out as the only unit that can't provide it for herself. So in that regard, at least she brings the sun. She has that sort of quality of life adjustment that Gawain had to get an upgrade in order to acquire. She just gets it right out of the outset, and that's definitely going to be really, really good. So in that regard, I do like this for her, but it is an interesting thing that it just inherently makes her compete with those other two, again, more popular units. All of this is going to be on the 6-turn cooldown, so in a double Koyanskaya setup, you would be able to double it up, but really there'd be no practical reason to do so, since the Sunlight Battlefield buff is 3 turns, and you really just need it as a sort of qualifier. So again, not the biggest of concerns that we can't do this in a conventional 3-turn setup. Her third skill here is going to increase her own Buster performance for 3 turns, and that just right there is obviously going to be nice because it's going to pair with the steroid from the first skill that's 20%. That's going to allow for a total of 50% basically Buster up in her setup. Again, the 3-turn duration is more than welcome, and she's also going to charge her own NP gauge by up to 20%. This is where I said, again, the 20% gauge ends up putting her in a little bit of a weird spot. If you want a 3-turn with her, this means starting her out with something like a K-scope. That definitely means that she will be able to 3-turn, but it also means that she's not going to be, able to 3-turn with as robust of a craft essence as somebody that can maybe start from 50% or even 0. So in that regard, it's sort of a worst type of scenario if you're able to 3-turn that you have to start with something like K-scope. K-scope's still a really good craft essence. It helps facilitate things like this, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't really add any power to the comp unless you're comparing it to a craft essence that literally doesn't scale off of attack. So in that regard, K-scope is sort of the baseline for what we consider rather than any sort of extra benefit in that regard. So getting more charge would actually, just as we mentioned before, really help Gareth out in terms of what she can do. But on top of this, she's also going to grant herself a debuff on attack that for the next 3 turns, whenever she attacks, she will inflict burn with 300 damage for 3 turns to the enemy. So really, really nice. It does specify when normal attacking, so this means that you will only get this from her cards and extra attack. You will not get this from Gareth's NP. So keep that in mind, that you will not be able to apply this sort of ahead of time with the NP or something in order to get extra damage. It's just going to be a case of you're going to have to card either before an NP if you have maybe some sort of burn adjusting type of modifier, or again, you're going to have to try and rely on the cards after an NP or just out there in the wild in a turn in which you're not NPing at all in order to be able to get burn on an enemy. This, again, all on a 6-turn cooldown, so again, if we're able to actually reach that sort of Koyanskaya type of setup, this skill then gets doubled up, and it does allow you to have that Buster synergy there. This basically ends up turning Gareth into, by turn 3, a 100% Buster modifier, given the fact that she has 30% here that can be doubled up, and 20% on the first skill that can be doubled up. So yes, having access to that Koyanskaya comp would actually help Gareth's numbers quite significantly. So as a result, this is where I would really like to see them do an upgrade for her, and they don't have to do much to this. It is as simple as basically just taking this and changing it to 30% instead of 20%. If they did even that alone, it would make a huge difference for Gareth and allow her to, 1, have a lot better damage numbers, and 2, frankly just see more use. So I do think that would be a solid upgrade for her. I don't think it would break things, especially when we start to consider some of the other crazy AoE sabers that are out there. Certainly we'd have to look at how that makes competitive units like Gawain and Barcast look, but it is an interesting thing nonetheless. Now, as we start to look at her passive skill here, you can see she does have magic resistance speed just for some, again, flat resistance there. Obviously, better to have this than not. It's just going to mean that some of the debuffs actually bounce off of her rather than landing. And then she does have Riding B, as a lot of Sabers do, particularly our Knights of the Round. This is going to improve the quick performance of the singular quick card that she has by an additional 8%. And it is one of the cards that actually did have a decent hit count, so definitely not a bad thing there to have. With regard to her pins, mana loading is sort of going to be a recommendation. I'm going to say if you have something like a Super Scope, it's probably not a requirement. But I do think it can still be really nice to have this and have this maxed out if you're trying to use Gareth either without a Super Scope and just a normal K-Scope, or in some sort of multiple damage dealer type of setup where you're maybe utilizing party charge to get Gareth and someone else up to full. Having the mana loading online for something like that is always beneficial, as it just means it's less charge that character actually needs. And then her third append here is an anti-Saber attack damage aptitude. This one's not really got any synergy, so I don't really recommend it. It's not going to be a good use for your coins, so unless you just have a ton of coins lying around, maybe because you went really deep on Proto Merlin or something like that, it's really not that big of a deal to unlock this on her. Her first skill here, the extra attack finesse improvement, would be probably a better choice for your coins. I'd still say go with the mana loading first, but ultimately this one could be at least a decent secondary usage of your coins, as it's not only going to improve her extra attacks damage, but also the NP gain and the star generation of it. Then we get to her actual Noble Phantasm. It is a 4-hit AoE Buster NP. It is very straightforward and simple. As you guys can see, it is going to deal damage to all enemies, and just nothing more to be said about that. Then her overcharge effect is going to increase her attack for 1 turn, activating before the NP by a base of 10%. At a maximum rank of the overcharge, you would get all the way up to 30. And then it will further increase her own attack on the Sunlight battlefield for 1 turn, activating first. Since her Sunlight battlefield buff is 3 turns, and she will carry it through the waves with her, this means that every single time you NP within that 3-turn window with her, she will always get the benefit of this. This does then mean that it's going to be adding 30% attack up instead of just 10. And this is where, when we start to consider, again, things like the actual attack stat being low, it's really not that big of a concern because we have so many steroids flying around. Again, you're going to have 30% attack up and basically 50% buster up, so that is going to help really offset things like this overall attack stat. But we're going to definitely take a look at the damage numbers here with you guys in a second, just so you guys have an idea. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about craft essences and what I think would work well with her. Because we already mentioned, you're probably going to, if you want to 3-turn with her, need some sort of K-scope in order for that to work. That's going to require a double Oberon and some other 50% charger, ideally a Koyanskaya, in order to really be able to function in that scenario. So still not really going to be the best and most powerful 3 turns. The 3rd turn will spike damage quite nicely with a double Oberon setup, but the first 2 turns is not going to be. So you're going to have to really watch that out. Now, of course, there's going to be alternate uses for her. You may find yourself in a scenario where you're not trying to devotedly 3-turn with Summer Gareth. And so things like cranking or, again, aerial drive, both are welfare craft essences here that can be really solid additions to use on, again, someone like Summer Gareth. Maybe combine that with obviously her 20% charge skill, and that right there would leave you only needing 30% party charge. So someone like Koyanskaya of Dark could provide something like that. Or maybe you only end up needing something like, Oberon's 20% party charge if you end up having, even just her append for mana loading unlocked. So there's definitely something to be said about that sort of setup. And then last but not least, if you guys actually remember, Summer Gareth's third skill here does allow her to inflict burn with her cards. So that is definitely a thing. You can also put burn command codes on her. So that just makes Honey Lake our de facto sort of recommendation for, hey, if you need invuln pierce, it's really solid, but it's also going to be all attack scaling and get you that, again, extra damage against the enemies with the burn status for that nice 40% power mod. Now, you might not have something like this, so there's definitely other invuln pierce CEs that can work, but the reason this is a suggestion here is because of that synergy with the burn. Obviously, if you don't have your hands on Honey Lake, it is a limited craft essence from Summer 5, so definitely not got that many banners, but it does occasionally receive a banner here and there. Make sure you're careful if you try to roll for it, because it does frequently get paired with other summer craft essences, usually as sort of a potluck type banner where you can't just single it out and roll specifically for it as the only rate up 5-star. So in that regard, be careful if you try to go after it, but it is a very good craft essence and well worth having. But those are going to be my craft essence recommendations for a unit like Gareth. Now, let's go ahead and talk actual charge scenario here, because again, I think this is important to understanding how to use Gareth. So this is the 3-turn charge scenario, as we had mentioned earlier. Again, this is going to be where we're going to be utilizing double Oberon and a Koyanskaya, but really it can be any third support that has 50% charge. So as long as you have that, you should be okay. And the way it's going to function is we're assuming a non-MLBK scope right here. So we're going to assume a Lord append, but if you didn't have, if you did have a super scope, you would not need the append at all. So basically that's going to be enough. You're going to throw on the Koyanskaya Buster buff there, turn 1, and kind of just pop Gareth's buffs and NP. The only problem is, again, that 20% charge skill can't really be popped turn 1, so that means you're going to lose out on the 30% buster from that as well. So that turn 1 is going to be a little spicy depending on what NP level you have, or again, the overall HP value of the node. And then from there, you will at least be able to pop her 20% charge skill for wave 2, as that's going to give her the extra 30% buster up. And then you're going to utilize Koyan's 50% charge skill. That's going to bring her up to 70. And you're going to rotate the Koyanskaya out at that point, bringing in basically the second Oberon. From here, you're going to pop both Oberon's 20% charge skills. That is going to be a little bit overkill. As you guys can see, you're going to end up at 110% charge from it, but that'll be enough to NP the second time. And then for the third turn, you're going to end up basically popping both the Oberon 50% charge skills, then put both the Buster buffs on, and your turn 3 damage should be a lot better than even your turn 1 or turn 2 damage. So definitely that's how you'd be able to 3-turn with her. Not the best sort of most fluid type of setup, but it does work, and it would allow you to at least be able to accomplish farming with just her if you wanted. Now, we do have, again, our damage scenarios. Oh, actually, let me go ahead and show you guys the raw numbers here first. This is going to be Summer Gareth's raw numbers without any sort of source of support, any sort of craft essence, or again, mystic code, and this just being against a neutral target. So it's Summer Gareth under the power of her own buffs being popped, but no other considerations against a neutral target. And so you can see right here, NP1, rather anemic at about 15.5 there, almost 15.6. But in the Sun battlefield, since we know we pretty much are always going to have this, assuming we are in the actual 3-turn setup, you're going to be looking at, again, something like 18k. And keep in mind, you don't have to end up utilizing Summer Gareth alone. As we mentioned, you could also put her into some sort of dual damage dealer setup. So if we are talking a unit like, say, Barcast that you prefer, Summer Gareth can be used alongside of her in order to actually provide her with a Sunlight Battlefield buff, since it will also work for someone like Barcast. And that can then be used to allow Barcast to do even more damage on that end. So it's definitely a good synergy there. But obviously, the things will get even nicer if you manage to get all the way up to NP5, though, again, it's really just going to depend on how much Gareth you want to actually roll for. Then let's go ahead and look back at the actual damage numbers in a realistic comp. This is going to be basically with a Koyenskaya of Light, 2 times Oberon, a level 100 Super Scope, and a Neo Plug Suit maxed out. This is sort of the idyllic settings for her in a 3-turn environment. Still neutral damage numbers, but everything else here is nice, and you can see NP1, first turn, as we mentioned, rather anemic. Second turn gets a little bit better, a little bit more blood in the veins there, and the third turn, you actually pop off a little bit more with that, but the damage numbers are still not going to be the greatest, so it is something to be concerned with. This does include the Sunlight Battlefield buff, so it's something to keep in mind that that is a factor going on here, because, again, she should always have it, assuming there's no sorts of shenanigans in the actual node. NP2 starts to make things a little bit more robust, as you can see the nice jump there, and pretty much by NP5 we have almost doubled the amount of base damage that we had. Not quite, but still fairly good. Now, comparing Summer Gareth to other counterparts, we have obviously a welfare here in Saber Lily. You can actually basically 3-turn with her with the exact same setup because she is a 20% charger. She's also had her NP interlude. And you can see a very similar type of setup where the first turn here, not so great. Second turn gets a little bit healthier. And then the third turn actually ending up popping off. So the good news is we can assume NP5 for her. So if you try to compare her to an NP5 of Gareth, the numbers are slightly better, but you're only about 20,000 off. The downside is you are pretty much guaranteed if you played the event that she came out, or again managed to roll more copies of her in the FP pool, of actually getting in P5 Saber Lily. So there really isn't going south of this number at all. That 242 is just solid. Comparing to someone like Gawain, remember Gawain can also secure his own Sunlight Battlefield, so taking a look at him, he is also the exact same setup as Summer Gareth, and you can see his damage numbers, he's kind of had some love over time, so his numbers just end up looking a little bit better there for Wave 1 and Wave 2. Wave 3, though, actually ends up coming in under what Gareth basically did at NP5, but still way stronger at NP1. And this is a story-locked unit compared to a limited unit, so yeah, Summer Gareth definitely could use that upgrade, as we mentioned. NP2 starts getting a lot better, and NP3 certainly quite a bit more, and that's something to be considered. Now, let's go ahead and compare as well to Barcast, but remember that Barcast has to have the consideration of sort of the base number as well as the base number with the Sunlight Battlefield, because she cannot always secure that buff for herself unless you are taking someone else along. So in this scenario, again, it's the exact same comp that we saw with Gawain and Gareth, and you guys can see NP1 here is going to be at about 167k. With the Sunlight Battlefield starts getting a lot better, and then basically NP2 starts getting even more good, and then essentially NP5 actually being quite nice. The comparison here, though, is going to be again to this 134. So basically at that point, even without the Sunlight Battlefield, yeah, Barcast just kind of wins. Like I said, I can understand why people feel like a unit like Gareth is just not strong. I wouldn't hate on her because she's just a cute girl and there's no reason to do so. But yeah, I think it's a fair judgment to be able to say that she's not in a good place and she needs an upgrade. And so, again, if they actually do manage to improve the charging situation, that will get her into a much better scenario in terms of overall damage. But you can certainly see that, again, we have these sorts of comparisons, and this isn't even the worst comparison that we can make. The worst one's probably going to be her other 4-star counterpart named Salter. Salter, as you guys know, is now a Black Grail looper, so yeah, just even NP1 Salter starts getting dumb, as this is just easily more than double what Gareth can produce without, again, sort of NP5 type of numbers. Even NP5, this is almost double what her NP5 can do. So yeah, Summer Gareth definitely needs a little bit of a bump up, I would say. And it's not that crazy to point this out either. But I will say that the only issue with doing this sort of thing at NP1 is while this is a double Crane Sky Oberon setup with a level 100 Black Grail, it can be done, but you do need to have bonded the Salter at NP1 high enough to have unlocked the append, because you do require at least that 10% charge from the mana loading append in order to be able to pull this off. Still, though, it is a thing, and it is something that can be done, and we don't even necessarily need to look at the higher NP level numbers, as they're just going to get a little bit more crazy. We can definitely compare to a baseline, someone like Artoria. Artoria just at NP1, again, functions pretty much from zero herself with something like Rising Mud Rain. So you do have that sort of capability. Worst case scenario, Artoria is going to be starting out with a 50% C. It's still going to do very good solid damage. So at that point, yeah, it's still going to pretty much trounce Gareth. And then we do, interestingly enough, have another unit in desperate need of an upgrade. Arthur certainly needs his NP interlude at this point. As you guys can see, he's sort of stuck in the exact same comp as all these other 4-stars are, and he basically is also coming in at a rather anemic NP number here on wave 3. You do end up basically having that capability to kind of go a little bit higher with additional MP numbers, but it is a 5-star, it is a limited unit, so yes, Arthur also in need of a solid buff. And I can think of exactly how I would fix Arthur too, which maybe one day we'll do a video on that, should you guys so choose. But it is an interesting thing nonetheless, and I will say that this is certainly the issue that Gareth has. So again, she's not an unusable unit, but I think probably one of her better uses is going to be using her to handle a wave and sort of either bring the sun for someone else or just kind of try to just be a stat stick that actually just handles one wave in order to set someone else up. Either way, I think that's the best way to use her, because trying to use her in a 3-turn, you're just not going to be able to pump the damage numbers well enough. So that's where I've used her conventionally in the past, and she's okay at that. She's not terrible. You just probably need to use her at one of the first 2 waves rather than maybe the 3rd and final wave in order to handle it, because again, the actual final damage number is not going to be the strongest. So I do think Gareth is a very fun unit in that regard. I actually really like her animations and her ascension forms. I'll be curious to hear which one is your guys' favorite, and if you will actually be rolling for Gareth, or rather, will you be rolling for the banner that Gareth is on? Maybe the better question, but it just depends. At the end of the day, it's totally up to you guys whether or not you want to roll. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the analysis. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys for the next summer video. Okay. Help Arthur, please. Yes. Now compare Salter. Oh, I purposely left Salter to like almost last, right? Like, I wanted to get Gawain and Barcast in there side by side, but like, Salter's just dumb. This just dumb, chat. Like, this is NP1 Salter. Arthur needs some help. There's an easy way to fix Arthur. I mean, like, it won't make him the best, most cracked unit ever, but it will bring him up significantly in terms of damage. And his fix is also very similar to Gareth, where Arthur just has this problem of he's starting out in a K-scope comp. K-scope comp at that point usually is required because you don't have very good charge. You're 20% or less. You can 3-turn with it, but it does mean that your damage numbers are just nothing compared to the people that can start with a 50% C, that can basically double up their skills with Kai and Skya, or again, start from 0 and have things like a Black Grail. So having a better charge scenario actually does facilitate a better craft essence and a better support setup, usually facilitating more damage. So it ends up being not just a singular upgrade, but more like a force multiplier where it just keeps carrying on and getting better and better and better. Those Arthur numbers against Giants look sus. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. That's why I stayed away from it. I agree that they look sus. Bigger charge and also make his anti-super giant 3 turns and not 1 turn. His anti-supergiant is 1 turn and on his charge skill. Wait, but you can do that in turn 3. So, just real quick here, right? Start out with 100% charge. Basically, you do Koyanskaya, you rotate the Koyanskaya out. You do one of the Oberon 50%. Now, this technically gives minus 20, but it gives minus 20 of 0, so it's still 0. Since Arthur doesn't refund. And basically, at that point, you're just going to go ahead and do the double Oberon 20%, Arthur's own 20%, and a 50% right there. So you would be able to still have it for the 3rd turn. It's fucky, don't get me wrong, but like it does actually work. Wait, then does Salter do more damage than Arc on neutral? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, true, my bad. Yeah, it's all good. I figured there had to be something there, and that's why I just didn't talk about it, because I was just like, But no, I mean like then neutral, yeah. I mean when you start looking at like Black Grail numbers with Salter, Salter gets dumb. Now, chat, you want to know why that is? It's a very easy thing. Okay, so chat. AOE, Noble Phantasm, Buster, damage per MP level 300. How much damage does Salter have? Well, she's AOE, she's Buster. This is why I'm kind of the opinion that they never should have given Salter that amount of damage. Or, sorry, that amount of charge. Like, it just absolutely broke her. She already had that amount of, like, base raw damage going for her. The one thing holding her back was her whole charge scenario. And it's really weird to me because I've seen people try to justify the charge upgrade for Salter as being like, oh, well, it's because, like, when you remember in Heaven's Feel, when she starts, like, popping off all those noble phantasms, right? That's how Salter should be. And it's like, yes, but no. That's Salter with the Grail actually, like, enabling that. So I have to assume that the version that we have here in FGO does not have a Grail attached to her like it's a car battery so that she can just sit there constantly firing off NPs. So in that regard, well, I do think it's a cool thing. I'm like, yeah, I straight up like don't agree with that argument. And that may not be why they did anyways. But it is still just a crazy thing in that regard. But yeah, it's why. It's like I've had people say Salter needs a Noble Phantasm interlude, and I'm like, no. So chat, in a Noble Phantasm interlude, NP2 becomes NP1 and NP5 becomes NP2. You're literally arguing for Salter to have 550% instead of 450. For reference, a normal 300% scaling person, when they get an NP interlude, goes to 400%. Salter doesn't need an NP interlude because she's already stronger than most AoEs that have had one. She has never needed one because she existed from day one with it. And then some, right? So yeah, like I've never understood people that said like, oh, she needs an NP interlude. No, she does not. There is no sane argument for why that is the case. And again, chat, look, the disparity with someone like Gareth is also kind of further proof. These are the same archetype of unit. They are 4 stars. They are both limited. They are both buster. They are both AoE. And one basically triples the damage of the other one at NP1. I'm sorry, that's just friggin' nuts. Like, as far as I'm concerned, while they are of the same rarity, you can just straight up go to Salter and just be like, yeah, here you go. Because that's what that really looks like. Salter is a closet 5-star. And we can easily say this because Salter basically outdamages almost all the 5-stars right now. Someone must have forgotten to add the star release. I mean, I'm okay with it, right? Like, I'm okay with it from the standpoint that, like, while she is more damaging, to me, she should not have the better charge scenario. She should be almost less in control of what's going on. But it is what it is. So, like, I'm not going to argue against Salter being strong. Salter should be strong. Should Salter be so strong that she is stronger than every unit that is a higher rarity than her? No, probably not. That's like me being a Saberface lover. I can say that with relative impunity. Nobody can call me biased on this. Because while I really like Salter, that's a little too much. Straight up. So, my only hope is that at some point they re-examine that sort of thing and they go like, oh yeah, you know, holy crap, maybe we should have given other people some buffs. You can make that argument for Demia too. Yeah, and I don't like Demia being at top. I've also said that, so I'm consistent across the board on that. Don't worry, she could still get her charisma buffed. Yeah. Well, it's wild because that's actually what I was hoping they would buff with her. Her charisma is poop, actual poop. So, like, I was straight up hoping that they would actually give that some attention, because I feel like you could do an interesting thing where you said, hey, it's not a charisma. It's more like, so again, charisma being the ideal of uplifting your allies, of being a good leader, of actually like inspiring them. In her case, it should be more, we should go the tyrant route, and it should be more fear and oppression. So they could have done a unique charisma where instead of buffing allies, it may be like there's still a ally buff, but maybe they put like a defense down on it or something like that. Or maybe a crit chance down on it for enemies. Either way, something that actually debuffed the enemies, that made them more fearful of her, rather than, hey, I'm a better leader for my allies. Because it's less that she's inspiring people and more that she is making everybody else go, oh shit, as they see her riding up. Attack down on allies, massive attack up for self. I mean, yeah, you could justify something like that, but it makes me want to make a huge mistake and pull story and pray for more NP copies of her. Don't try to roll around story. My advice would be wait for an actual raid up banner. She is going to get the occasional one, so I think that's a better idea. Getting Arcuid to 100, 120, give her damage on par with NP2. Are you saying NP2 of Arcuid or NP2 of Salter? I assume you mean Arcuid. No. Well, I think with 120, the waters get a little bit more muddied. But I do know a level 100 gold foed NP1 is not as strong as an NP2. So. It really drops his wave 1 and his wave 2 damage. I mean, listen, that's the exact same thing as like Gareth and them had, right? So that's not too crazy, I would say. That's pretty much par for the course at this point. Next one planned is during New Year's. Yep. I've rolled her on story right after I finished Fuyuki day 1. It's hilarious because I did too. Salter was one of the very first units on my account. I literally rolled her back when I had no idea that you weren't supposed to roll story. And I very quickly found that out. Because, and this is actually like low key how I ended up becoming a content creator, chat, is over time, I basically just sat there and said, hey, you know what? What if I look into everything even more and really learn this? Because I was picking the game up. I really liked it. I was really interested in it. I've always loved Fate. And then I had several friends that were also picking it up with me that they were, kind of interested in playing alongside. So I ended up doing a lot of research, not only for myself, but also to help my friends out. And it just ended up turning me into this. When I first started, I thought double Scotty meant you needed two. Well, I mean, it does. But yeah, you can only own the one, right? I actually answered you earlier in stream, I think, Sora. Like right towards the beginning. I'm always the research guy of the group too. Every game I play. Yep. It happens. I think certain people get relied on for that sort of thing, especially people that actually know how to look stuff up because people are dumb. Understandably so. And I think, like, especially, you look at something like Fate Grand Order Wiki, and then you have something like Game Press, and they're totally different, unique UIs. So it is very much a talent to be able to quickly process information and figure things out. And I think that's how that sort of thing happens. Must have lost connection. I think so. Best thing I got from the story was a Black Grail copy in Enkidu. Yeah, so the conventional reason for why you don't want to roll story, guys, remember this. It's a lot of it boils down to, hey, I don't want to like accidentally get a unit I don't want. So like you might go in there and you might go, oh man, I really like want, say, Lance or Alter, but I end up getting like 10 copies of Fion instead. Like there's no guarantee, there's no rate up, and you basically can end up getting repeats of units that you already have. So a lot of people tell you just don't do it. I'd say at the very beginning of the game, rolling story is not the end of the world because you just don't have anyone. So you getting units, anything that you get's basically an upgrade. But I'd say pretty much after even like something like Fuyuki, if you've managed to roll a couple of units already, my advice is don't roll story. And honestly, it kind of just proves to be the case regardless, because you should always be saving up pretty much, especially for newer accounts, towards those initial supports to help you out. What's your opinion on Game Press? Game Press makes really good event guides, and that's it. My opinion is pretty much all the other guide content that Game Press makes is utter crap. And the reason for that is because a lot of it's opinionated. And you could argue that, like, okay, well, my content's opinionated, right? Like, we come in here and we look at the units and I do a unit analysis for you, and I'm giving you my take, my opinion on it. I think the difference here is I usually try to remove my bias from things. I make it pretty clear when I do have a bias and what that bias is a lot of the time. And usually I try to talk to you guys not only about the good, but also the bad and how you can deal with both, right? Like, is the unit so good that you have to have them? Is the unit so bad that they're not worthy of your consideration? If the unit does have some sort of demerit or like point of concern, how do you address it? How do you deal with it? So I frequently am just more on the side of teaching you how to use every unit rather than trying to say, this unit is the best, this unit is trash. Like, and that's, I think, the problem that a lot of like guide sites get caught up in, and Game Press especially is caught up in that. Game Press's tier list is one of the worst, if not the worst, I have ever seen. The opinions spouted on Game Press's tier list are so bad that they would do better to just delete it straight up. I have seen some actual like smooth brain takes from that tier list, and I don't say that sort of thing lightly. So, because like we have definitely sat in there and like read a couple of lines from it before, and I've just been like, your opinion is based on real facts and numbers. True, And that's usually what I try to do with you guys at all times. So, would you like for the story banner to be changed so that you have the usual rate up servant rate on story locked SSRs? I would like the story banner to be changed to have rotational pools so that you have certain units that can appear, or so that you can pick a quote unquote like rate up or pity option. I don't really care how they do it, but I would like to see the story banner changed in a way that improves it so that there is maybe a good time to roll, or maybe a time in which you can set it up so that it is not as bad for you. I think all of those are good things. Beer, thank you again for the follow. And thank you to everybody that followed during the recording there. Turn the story banner into old class banners we used to get. Right. Yeah, I actually think that's great. I actually have no problem with something like that. Picking 30 characters that you can get those kind of like Nikke. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care. I think that they should do something to the story banner, because the way it is currently, the popular advice is just don't touch it. And I think that's kind of a useless point. Now, I will say we are at the point now on JP where they're running so many banners concurrently that you usually don't care. There's almost always something on rate up of interest. So, for instance, you guys can see like right now we actually have very few, and it's rare. We only have the alter ego and waiver. But straight up, we've had times, chat, where we've had 9 different banners active at the same time. So, like, yeah, it's a thing, right? Like, so I'm gonna say it's not the end of the world if they never do improve the summon, the story banner. The problem with it is just that, like, as it is currently, it's kind of poop. I also think one of the cool ways that you could upgrade the story banner would be to give it a actual like free pull. So like, you know how you guys have like the paid La Single? What if instead of a paid La Single, you had also a free story pull every day? Not only would that incentivize people to actually log in every day and actually do the things that the devs wanted them to, but people would, go like, hey, I'm going to actually show up here and I'm going to keep rolling because I might get a case go. I might get a Black Grail. I might get, Artoria. I might get like, one of those rare story locks that I haven't seen before. So I do think it would actually, even just a single spin would be enough to like get people to be like, oh, holy crap. Yeah, let me get in on that. Stays up too. That's true. I forgot about that. Is it worth it to have a JP account if I have the time to manage it? Yes. I mean, the only thing I would say is I would only pick up a second account if you're capable of treating it as if it's a main. Because, and I've pointed this out to people before, while there is no harm in like you guys just picking up an account, the problem at play with something like, hey, like let me start a JP account just to get like Arcuid who just came out, is a lot of the times people just end up not playing afterwards and they just drop it, and they would have been better had they not even bothered to waste their time. So while it is there for the novelty, I feel like a lot of people, when they start a second account, just naturally let it fall by the wayside, and it ends up being a kind of a waste. If you're going to play it, though, and you play it regularly, then the account will actually go somewhere and you won't be perpetually behind and you'll actually be good. So I think that can also be solid. Story lock should just be on the normal banners after you unlock them. Story lock should just be on the normal banners after you unlock them. I'd be okay with that. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I think that'd be a great thing. A great change to actually make to the game. And I think that's something that a lot of people, like, maybe don't get, is that, like, to a large degree, story locked units are actually rarer at this point than the actual, like, limited units are. Because while limited units are rare and story locked units are equally as rare, limited units often get more banners. The only way story locked units are not as rare as limited is if you're rolling story. And since everyone says don't do that, they are functionally equal to limited in that sense. So then when you start to consider that the limiteds actually do have a tendency to get more banners, you start going like, huh, I don't know that that's actually true. Maybe the story locks are actually rare at this point. So I'd say if it's a 5-star story lock, it's probably not that rare. But the 4-star story locks? Have fun finding one of those on a banner. Like, again, we can talk till the cows come home about the fact that, like, a unit like Salter or Lalter just is practically never on banner. So it's a thing. It's just very difficult to get your hands on some of the 4-star story locks. Yeah, with Valentine's Day. Still in shambles over Creamhill? Right. Well, so you guys saw how excited. Chat, when I did my GSSR, what was the thing I was most excited for? For those of you guys that were here, what was I most excited for? It was Don Quixote, the story locked 4-star. I was the most excited for that because I didn't roll his initial banner. And I went, crap, I'm never going to get him. So the fact that he showed up in the GSSR, I was like, oh my God, I have a copy, finally. Let's go. I don't have to try and go out of my way to roll him now. So I was exceedingly excited about that. And that right there tells you something, right? Like, I'm more excited to get the 4-star story lock than I am to get the limited 5-star that I got. We maybe have an issue. Is it normal not to get an SR in the GSSR banner? Like, is it possible the SR gets upgraded to an SSR? Yes, I've had it happen myself. So if you got 2 SSRs, that's how. Because it did say that you were guaranteed a 4-star or higher. I'm definitely spending the 4-star ticket on DQ. I mean, you don't have to. I think, like, gameplay-wise, DQ is still kind of meh. But, like, at the end of the day, he's a fantastic character. And he is story locked, so it be what it be. And I think that sort of thing makes it difficult. It's the only servant from my country. Yeah, exactly. That's you just have to roll at that point. And that's why I don't have Edison. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have Edison on an A. I do have him on JP. All right, chat. It is media share night. So unfortunately, that means YouTube, I'm going to be shutting you guys down. You're more than welcome to come join us over here on the Twitch side of things. Let me get you guys a link real fast for those of you guys that wish to join. But I do have to end things on the YouTube side of things purely because copyright issues. So it is what it is, but well, Twitch is a little bit more lenient on that front. So anyways, feel free to come on and join us. I'd be happy to have you guys. You guys can watch as we react to certain content. And again, if you guys want to suggest content, feel free to get on the Discord and get in the content suggestion channel where you guys can submit stuff for me to react to. But again, thank you guys for being here on the YouTube side of things. I'm going to be ending it for you.